Okay, so I'm Brandi Smith, Perfect to Know Physical Therapy and Performance Training, founder of Perfect to Know Physical Therapy PT Academy, which is online courses for parents, coaches, and athletes. And I'm super excited because today we're here to talk about grow your gym by growing families, the secret to lifelong clients. And when we first got here, Carla already had an awesome struggle slash question. So I want to go straight over to Carla. I'm going to pin myself and then also have you'll come in as well. Let me see if I can do that. There we go. Okay, so Carla, I want you for everyone because they missed the beginning part. Can you come in and kind of talk about, you started this conversation about a struggle you're having and trying to decide on your cutoff ages, and you're thinking of expanding. So I want you to kind of go into it about your cutoff ages for going from parent to taught to when the kid goes by themselves. So go ahead and come on in. You have to repeat yourself a little bit for me, but everyone else kind of
Yep.
missed it.
No, that's fine. We usually before start our by yourself half hour class, starting at age 3.
Mhm.
Um, like in September, for the long for the session.
Mhm.
Um, but we're thinking of putting it up to I teach parent and taught, and I even see with the parent and tots that have actually had 9 months that some of them are going to struggle. They're going to turn 3, but they're going to struggle with following circuits and going by themselves and just being able to do certain things independently. Um, so we're thinking of putting it up to 3.5. But we also understand, though, that there are some 3-year-olds that may be able to handle that task. So we were thinking of, like having like a testing, but if we put just 3 to 4.5, I mean, yeah, 3 to 4 for our half hour class, we're going to get parents that just because they turn 3 are going to throw them into a class, and our ratio is 5 to 1. And you have newer students, or staff that aren't quite, they do a great job, but even I, and I've taught for many years, have had a few students that probably needed to be in parent taught a little longer. Like that 6 months really makes a big difference at that age. So
Yeah.
how to explain to parents, um, that some 3-year-olds may be able to handle this and some not.
Mhm.
And so we're just trying to figure out how to word that they need to be tested or not tested, but recommended into if they are just turning 3.
Yeah, so I think this is really a great, and this is part of what we're going to talk about today as well, and it fits in really well with this, is this concept of helping the child's readiness guide progression, right? So like one way to possibly, say this would be that every child, we like to meet your child where they are and help them grow in the best way possible, grow and thrive, right? Which means that we need to meet their needs in whatever group scenario is going on. So based on meeting the child's needs, right, we need a certain sets of how do I explain this? Skills that have been developed through the parent and taught class, right? And either they developed it through the parent taught class or they've developed it at home and in their world. And they're coming in and they're able to be successful in your 3 to 4 year old class or 4.5 year old, whatever age they end up joining that class. And it might be that instead of doing an age, you give the class a name and then like to be, what is your class name for that age? Like what's the class title?
We call it the Teddy class.
Okay, the Teddy class. Okay, so like to be in the Teddy class, so can you offhand think of a couple of skill sets that you have found that when you have a child that's not ready, because this is where it's really easy to see. It's always easier to see what didn't work than it is to see what's working, right? It's just easier. So the ones that were 3, 3.5, and you were like, man, they need to be in the parent talk class a little bit longer. what were some of the skills that they were struggling with? Was it, staying on task, staying attention? Was it an attention thing? Was it a memory thing? Was it a motor coordination thing? Like, what are the things that you're seeing seem to be issues when they come in and they're not ready?
I mean, every child varies. So it's, it kind of
So zoom
it
out. Hold
kind of
on.
just
We
depends.
we know that every child varies, but kind of zoom out. Can you put some of the behaviors you're seeing in categories?
Yes, I mean, I guess that's even with many children, like, multitasking, going from, you have our teddies are supposed to be able, they're 3. So um, we try to work up to 3 tasks. So, like, you have a teacher station, then you go to this station, and then you go to the next station, and then you go back to the line.
Right. Okay,
Um,
so an ability, so they should have an ability to handle 3 tasks or stations sequentially with minimal guidance. Like they might need a little reminder, hey, Sally, get back on them, go back to
yeah,
the frog, right? But you don't want them standing there totally clueless, and you don't want them running off when they get to the second station, right?
correct.
And
And
these are
that's
problems you're having, correct? Like what's
mhm.
happening when they're not doing this? What does it look like?
Yes, well, like a teacher, once they decide they're done with the teacher station and they just run off and go to whatever station they want, now that teacher has 4 other little 3-year-olds, and then they have to go and run and chase.
They're
And
chasing one. Now they're chasing one. Then
that's,
what happens with the other 3 who are sitting there?
yeah, yeah, it's just, um, I'm not going to say more sensitive, but um, it, I've had my own children, and sometimes it's hard to hear, that they're not quite ready for those
Right. But so here's the
stations.
thing. It's okay to, so the thing is letting them know like this is where they are and we're willing to move them at half semester, or we're willing to shift them when they're ready. We'll have another, a round of like check-ins on this period. It's the biggest thing I think is for parents is taking away shame about whether their child is ready or not ready for something. Like kind of letting them know that every child develops differently, and that there is actually more research to show that if you stay longer at a level of a skill set down here, then everything moving forward will be better. So like in our Born to Move program, the babies program starts 3 months and it ends around walking, which is usually 12 to 14 months, give or take. Because we're promoting not early walking, we're promoting foundational stuff. And if a kid is just on the border of getting interested in going vertical and kind of going to start walking, but not exactly walking, and they're still enjoying and feeling challenged in the baby class, like it's going to still, as they're growing out of it, they're going to start wanting to do the next level of things, right? But keeping a child into the babies program for me will always be better, because the more they can crawl, the more they can get the foundational thing at that level, the better the waddlers class is going to go. And the same thing with the waddlers. The waddlers into the toddlers class, our waddlers start when they're walking, right? Comfortably walking. Early, it could still be early beginning walking, right? So they may be 12 or 14 months. They might even be 16 months, which means one of the 16-month-olds was probably in the baby's class longer. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that the whole foundation of every class structure needs to meet the needs of that skill set, right? And so then we have from there to 2, and then we have from 2 to 3 for our toddlers, and then for our preschoolers, um, wait, did I just do that wrong? My brain. 12 to 16 months. Yeah, and then 2 to 2.5. It could be 2.5. And then our toddlers are from 2.5 to 3, and then our preschoolers are from 4 to 5. And now you might have a 6-year-old that's still enjoying the preschool class, and who, what I would do is if they're still feeling challenged and they're enjoying and participating and interacting in that class, I would keep them in the preschool class longer before I would move them to the next thing. Because the longer and the more solid they are in whatever your phase is, developmental phase before is, and this is just like, gymnastics is the same thing. It's all of this is a progression, right? And we're building more than just gymnastics moves. We're building the ability to handle more than one task, the ability to keep focus for 3 stations in a row. We're building that, and you have to kind of grow that gradually. And boys more than girls will be behind because neurodevelopmentally, boys are behind. Like that's normal. That's how they develop. All the way up to their finalization of their brain, boys don't develop a prefrontal cortex fully until 26, and their skeletal maturity doesn't develop till 26. Females, their brain development, their prefrontal cortex completion, their full skeletal maturity, their all of that is at 23. So boys are, by the time they're in their 20s, it's 3 years gap. And believe it or not, the gap just gets greater as they age. So if you have a boy, it makes sense that they're not quite ready for this other class. Like neurodevelopmentally makes complete sense. Now you have other outlying factors like did they crawl? Did they have a lot of movement exploration? Did they have time to fail as infants at home? And if you're getting these kids right at 3, you may or may not know these things, but you will see it in the gym when you see one kid who's able to follow these instructions and other kids who aren't. They may not have had the opportunity to be on the ground more, to explore failure, to try again. So then they may be shy or afraid of starting a new station. They might get to a station, they're with the teacher, and when they get to the first station without the teacher, they like don't they freeze up or don't know what to do, or they seek other stimulations to try to center their nervous system because they may or may not have developed the agency and the fortitude that they needed to develop in infanthood to be able to handle those things. So what's happening, class structure and class management is what's used in the world of gymnastics, right? Is really just a sign of needing more neural input at lower levels to the floor, like to their, what I said, to their development. Like I want to get them further down on the ground. I want to put more tunnels out and make them crawl longer. Like there are things that you might need to do more of in those classes to help prepare that kid for the next level. So I would probably more emphasize with the parents in my language, like they're just not quite ready for the next class because I really feel like we need to spend a little more time on these foundational like movements, or we need to spend a little more time on these things, and that we all develop at different levels and different times, correct? But we want to create an environment that helps your kid be the most optimal, thriving mentally, emotionally, and physically environment, right? People have this thought all the time when it comes to birthdays and starting school. And it has become more than a rule of thumb that if a boy is close to that range where they should maybe, like they would be like the absolute youngest in their class, it's very commonly known. It's more than just a rule of thumb. People say, hang on to them and put them in the next kindergarten class because it's so well researched, this developmental piece of it. Carla, come on in. I know you wanted to say something.
No, when you're talking about like going to kindergarten, like, I mean, my son is 19 and I have 15 and 19. And they both have November. Well, one has October, one has November. So they could have gone to school and they were reading, they were doing all the things and way exceeding milestones. But I chose to have another year of preschool, like not preschool, but like being home in those
Yeah.
younger ages. Um, Even though because I thought that it's when they graduate from it's now. I mean, my children right now, it's when they
Mhm.
graduate and they have to decide who they want to be and where they want to go, and just being able to be um, more, I think, of a guiding. I don't know, letting them be home an extra year
Mhm.
has truly been an absolute godsend. And everybody thought I was absolutely crazy for not sending them because, yeah, they were meeting and exceeding all mile and all physical and academic milestones. But I wanted them to really enjoy school, throughout, and everybody talks. And I guess the same thing with gymnastics. Every parent, I mean, I guess ours goes from, you go from like we call it a smaller gym, but smaller equipment, that kind of thing, separate room, and they move over into the other room in first grade. We've
Yeah,
had
so
people
they're
that
in
quit.
first grade, so they're at that point 6 or 7.
Yes. Uh-huh. And even though, like, I guess as a business, if you're going to look at it a business thing, our ratios are smaller in the other room.
Mhm.
I mean, we could move them up, but it's really not about that. It's about what I feel is best interest um, for their children, and we have found um, that is early enough. But we've had actually families like quit until their kindergarten year because they want to go into the other room.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is education side of things where we need to really educate parents that like we're not holding them back. We're creating a better foundation. We're building something really solid to work from. And there's just a lot going on in the other gym and socially, emotionally. They can get in the small gym. I know what small equipment you're talking about. They can get all the foundations that you can get in the big gym. Like it's not like all of a sudden they don't have certain equipment or anything. They have all the things they need. The equipment's smaller, which is also there's another some of those pieces of equipment. It fits their body structure better at that age. Um, and then you have the sensory integration side of things. So I think we just need to have really clear conversations that we are doing what's best for your child motor developmentally, socially, emotionally, developmentally, neurodevelopmentally. All of these factors are playing in. And what the research shows is the better the foundation they are, like the more confident they feel, the more emotionally regulated they are, the more integrated they are in their movements, the more time spent on the foundation. We talked about the pyramid of performance versus the pillar form. The more time spent there, it's going to pay off tenfold when they're ready to go to the next level. And less work will be done, less compensations will be the problem, less injuries. Like there's so much that the benefit to risk ratio. So I would like my thoughts are is do some education to the parents as to the structure of when and why we're moving things up and create your move ups on more around motor milestones. And it's not just motor milestones, it's also quality of those milestones, like quality of their movement. It's also social, emotional intelligence, like the ability to interact appropriately with their classmates. Like if you have a kid that's having a lot of behavioral issues in the small gym, moving them up to the big gym, they ain't going to get better. They're going to get bigger, right? Like they're not going to all of a sudden magically get regulated when there's more music and more people running around. It's going to get worse. So spending time in the smaller gym is going to help them, but and that's where some of the born to move stuff comes in is like, but why? How can we integrate some of these kids? What are some of the things that their brain is missing through their movement, which is very gymnastics, to help them regulate so that they can build that foundation to go to the next class. And I think like coming up with some of the things that you need to see, they need to be able to do 3 stations with minimal input from the teacher. Not that the teacher's not teaching, they are, but like the teacher doesn't need to be like running around chasing the kids, in order for them to move to the next level. As long as the stations are appropriate. Now, if the stations are very long, it's past the 3-year-old, window of focus, then you're talking about having to change how you're doing your stations. But I know you and your gem, so it's probably not that. It's probably more that these children need a little more foundational gross motor development to help integrate their sensory nervous system um, in very kind of specific ways, actually. So I would venture to say that and just push it towards, promoting optimal, thriving environment for their kids. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts, Carla? And what do you see any like struggles with that?
Yeah, that, I mean, on our like moving from Teddy's into like what we call our Panda class, which is a 45-minute class, like, it has like all those milestones of, must do, the 3 stations, must keep be, able to keep themselves safe. I mean, there's all those, we have those milestones and then we have the physical milestones as well. But it's when they want, like as far as in like they all want to like, okay, a summer schedule.
Mhm.
And so they want to look up before we could just say Teddy's. If your kid is 3, I mean, you would sign them up for Teddy's. What I'm finding though now is that they're go ahead and they're, signing their kid up for Teddy's, and we've never seen this child. And then they get into Teddy's and it's too much.
Yeah.
It's not
So
right. And so I guess that's where, um, I guess, that 6 months between 3 and 3.5 kind
it's
of really
huge.
makes a difference for many kids now. But there are some 3-year-olds that handle that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So what I would say, you can say something on the website like approximate age, based on uh, abilities to meet Teddy requirements, right? And then just explain to them that the first class will be a trial class where we can help them find the right class. Does that make sense? Like you're instead of being like, you meet or you don't, it's a pass or a fail. Like it's not a pass or a fail. Like that, if you go into it with a pass or a fail situation, that's going to trigger a lot of generational parents these days because they want their kids to pass everything and be successful. So it's more about this is a trial class. Why don't you try the Teddies and we'll kind of figure out if that meets your child right now or if we want to do some foundational stuff to build them to the Teddies in the next 6 months, you know? And I think that's really maybe just go at it more of the angle of like you want to find the best place for them. And the first class is a trial class to see where your child fits the best and how we can best meet your child's needs to help them thrive and be successful. Like that's what I would look at. How does that feel, Carla, with your population?
no, that's what I mean. We usually test each child actually, I mean, to find out the appropriate, classes. And we bring all our kids that are new in so that they go into
Are you
approximate
testing them
classes.
before
But
they try the class, or are you doing the class as a trial test?
both. We've
Okay,
done
yeah,
both.
yeah.
Um,
So is it
because
more just about how to word it to the parents? I mean, how does
correct.
that
It's just
wording I
kind of
just said to
how,
you?
I mean, like I
How does that
not
wording I
all
just said feel though? If you say to them, like, we're this is going to be a trial, we're letting you know from the very beginning, we're trying to figure out where your child best fits right now, whether it's going to be the Teddies or the class below or the class above. We're just trying to see where your child is, psycho emotionally, physically, socially, and not intelligently, but like mentally, like whether their mental fortitude is focusing enough, right? Like, and I wouldn't use the word enough. I would just say like we want to look at where your child is currently and see where we want to provide more foundational support to help your child thrive the best we can in our gym. And it might be that we just need to spend 3 months or 6 months in this other class and then move to the Teddies. It might be that they spend a couple months in the Teddies and they move to the next class. Like all those things kind of, and just let them know we have frequent reassessments. And it's more about functional assessments. It's not pass or fail. It's just telling us what we need to do more of and where can we best support your child. Um, what are your thoughts on that type of conversation, Carla?
no, that's a good, I mean, that's a good conversation. That's usually what kind of what we say is that this is what's best for them right now. Come, a month from now, that may, this may not be where we would feel that they would is in the best interest of your child. Um,
I would
I
hyper
would,
I would hyper focus on like just creating a foundation for them. Like we want to best create the best foundation for them. Does that make sense?
yep. I'm just trying to figure out how to word it. But I mean,
I don't
it's good word. It's just when you put up a schedule, do you know what I mean? It's just one of those things that try not to be too wordy.
Yeah, I think, under the schedule, you might just underneath all the schedules, you might just put an asterisk sign that says all first classes are trials for us to help build a foundation, find out where we can best support your child's growth and thrive and create a thriving environment, right? Like all first classes are trials so that we can figure out where in our program we can best create a foundation for growth and an environment for your child to thrive. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Yeah, I would do something like that. That way you know that you can, help them move through the program and you're clear from the very beginning. And it's not like it's a pass fail test. It's just that you're taking into account a lot of factors to help their child be in the best class that will help them at that moment. Yeah. I love this. This is actually really common. And Brian, I saw you were unmuted. I don't know if you were unmuted for a reason, but did you have something you wanted to add?
I just think that parents underestimate the social emotional part of things. They see like, oh, but they can do all these physical things, they're ready to go. It's like, no, they just ran off when we tried to transition between things. They are not ready for you not to be here. And I don't think they think about the fact that they can't stay with a group or that they don't take direction from anyone other than their parents still, or that, they hold their hand through the whole thing. Like, they don't understand that that is a clear indication they are not ready to do the next thing. And then my favorite analogy, I think, is the popcorn one, where like the popcorn, all kids develop differently, just like popcorn pops at a different time.
Yeah. That's a great analogy. I like that. I like the popcorn analogy. That's good, Brian.
I really
Yeah,
like.
you bring up a really good point about that they don't understand this part. This is the piece that we need to also talk about attachment and how secure attachment is important to be developed. And that is something that has to be developed through positive experiences, right? So this idea that, and especially transitions, we know for all humans, transitions, whether it's transitioning from one station to the next or it's a transition in life, that is where we're the most vulnerable. That's where we're the easiest to get off astray, to get dysregulated, to get a little off, right? And so transitions is a great place to see whether the kid is ready or not. Also, like you said, if they're seeking to constantly get support and what they're doing is they're seeking co-regulation with their parent, which is normal. Normal. Under the age of 7, children co-regulate with the parent or at least the one caregiver that they've created. Every child needs one caregiver that they've created an attachment with, that they co-regulate with. And there's a lot of forms of attachment. There's anxious attachment. There's a whole bunch of other ones, but anxious is one of the most common ones these days. And there's secure attachment. And ultimately, we want to create a secure attachment and help create an environment for parents to create a secure attachment. Not every parent is understanding and or getting the education about creating these attachments. And so, gymnastics class, parent and taught class, that is a great class where they have to learn attachment because we're putting them in situations where they can begin to develop that attachment. And attachment is developed through loving language, developed through eye contact, it's developed through touch. And it's also developed through consistently being there, right? Like consistently showing up, that structure of being there, the structure of saying what you do and doing what you say. That's also something you can set up as part of your parameters. Like if you say you're going to be there when the kid jumps, you need to be there when the kid jumps and catch them. Like those are all ways for the parents to help develop. So these foundational classes that they're wanting to move out of and the mom is ready to detach, because typically parents are ready to detach before the child is. And that's also part of normal development because they've had a hard time. Like they've been doing a lot of work, right? They've been doing a lot of work. They might be burnt out and they're probably working in 5 different worlds at the same time. Their work world, their parent world, they might be parenting multiple kids. And they also may have an older parent themselves that's a grandparent that they're having to care for, and in the end they're kind of being spread thin, right? And so it is very, very common for a parent to be ready to detach before the child is and just say, can I just drop them off for the hour, right? But I think it's really important to help teach the parents that their presence is actually key. their presence and involvement in the class is key to creating the secure attachment and key for the child to learn that social emotional intelligence so that they do feel confident and comfortable to transition from one station to the next by themselves. And, you can build in some transitions where gradually the child is, while mom is standing there, the child is doing it without touching mom, right? And going from one station to the next. That will gradually develop over time, even without input, just by creating that secure attachment situation. And that's part of one of the things we talk about in Born to Move is attachment and creating bonding and secure attachments that helps to create a regulated nervous system. So I think you bring up a really good point. Did that help at all for you guys, or did you have any questions or anything else you want to jump in about that before I move on? Oh my goodness. Hold on.
I think
Do what?
No, I
You're good? Yeah? Okay. Let me make this full screen, I guess. And then somehow I've now lost the, oh my goodness. Hold on. Everything downsized itself. There we go. Okay.
basically, if I think your concept
Mm-hmm.
should probably carry these children throughout their life, because
Oh,
just like you said, that basic foundations, like just kids moving from bronze into silver, I mean, like the stronger their foundation, the better the gymnastics will be to build.
always. And
Yeah.
and this is the
And
thing,
then
like
their
I think,
confidence, and then they'll last longer in the sport. And when you're I mean, challenge is great, but we're humans and we want to be successful.
yeah, I think, if we actually looked at these same similar concepts from level to level and move people up based on that as well, not just on skill level, I think you would see end outcome comes be greater. Like their ability to not get injured as much will be better because their foundational movement will be better. Their ability to make decisions and to stay focused and to go through the hardships of being an upper level athlete, like that all of that will be better if at each level they have accomplished that age of developmental, social, emotional, self-confidence, self-efficacy. They're just all of it. Like these foundational principles are principles to move your athletes through everything up to Olympic level.
Yeah, I mean, another problem.
Oh, you muted yourself in the middle.
I think another observation, am I there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That I'm finding is like your middle school, which is always a hard transition from middle school into high school.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with athletes that have been doing gymnastics for a long time, they're at least our athletes, like gymnastics is just getting hard. Now, middle school, a lot of homework and getting hard. You know what I mean? And technically, teaching them to be more resilient, and teaching parents that they have to go through those hard times, and it actually encourage them, because like I guess I must be watching too many of those kind of things, because they pop up on my Instagrams. Now I'm getting like graduation speeches, and how failing, and all that kind of thing, because I fear that it,
We have some generations that don't know how to fail. I'll say it.
yeah,
We have
yes,
generations that
and
do not know how to fail because they've been enabled throughout their lifetime. And we've pushed them to the point where it's like, how do I say this? We've created an environment to not allow them to fail because everything is like, it's so hard to watch them fail. But the reality is, because of that, we have an entire generation that never left home. That whole failure to launch group. The failure to launch is an inability to allow people, the child early on, and this is foundational stuff. Nerves that fire together wire together. So if you don't give an infant all the way up into, 7 years old, the greatest time window, 4 years old's biggest time window, from infancy to 4 years old, biggest time window, extends into 7. But if in that period, if you don't allow them to fail, you don't give them room to explore, to try. to try movement, to try what can their body do, to play with sounds, to be loud, to be quiet, to do all of the parameter, like the extremes of things, right? And I'm not saying extremes like go do something dangerous and die. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying you have to, within a safety parameter, which is where gyms are a great place to be. If you don't allow that exploration to happen and you don't allow them to fall and fail, they don't have the wiring in their foundational brain to learn how to try things new and fail. And so this whole group of failure to launch generation, that's the problem, right? And there's a whole group of young workers now that will only give you X amount of effort. And then when you ask for more effort, they quit. And that's, again, part of that failure to, they're not being allowed to explore and fail. And so this is really important for when wiring their brains early to do this. Now, what's cool is you can rewire it, which is also where the gyms play in. But yeah, I mean, totally. Go on, Carla. I'm sorry, I just, that's a little bit, I was gonna say it because it's true. It's true.
Yeah, I'm just not so sure, you know, I mean, like, how to encourage a parent to hang on with them and go through those hard times. Because I remember when Carson we went to one of those tour whatever things when he was really little.
Mhm.
And his question was to Nastia, how do you know when it's time to quit? And he
Mm.
was young. I don't remember how old, but he was really young. And she said, I would come home and I'd be frustrated and I'd throw my bag on the floor. And, you know, and because I was coached by my dad, because at that time he was being coached by his parents. And,
Yeah.
um, yeah. And she said, my mom said, of course you can quit. You can quit on a good day. And, and so, I think that's impactful, you know, like so like when your kid gets over that, you know, like they're learning a kip and you know they're frustrated and it takes so long and um you know those kind of things and then when they finally make the kip, you know, that's when you go, okay, you know what? You've made the goal, you made the time, now you can quit. Um
Yeah. I
is
mean, and I think that that's really the key though, is that you have, it is, that's a great idea of like quitting on the day that, you know, it's a good day versus a bad day. I think part of it is just educating people. We will have bad days. Hard things, great things are hard to accomplish, right? And that requires fortitude and perseverance. And guess what? You want that in the life. You want that in the world. So we're here to help promote that for your kid, right? So I think, you know, really teaching our key honestly is to teach parents all of this, and that it's good for their kids to work hard, you know? Um, so we're talking today about growing your gym by growing families and the secret to lifelong clients. This is definitely a piece of that. And so, see if I can get it to go. There we go. So a couple questions I have for you guys. Is your gym missing its greatest opportunities? Are there some opportunities that are passing by that you're not capitalizing in your gym? One of the things we'll talk about, most gyms are silent. Not a lot of gyms, there's not a lot going on between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. But that's when families with babies and toddlers are wide awake. And here's really the key and where gyms can really help is that they're searching for connection, they're searching for movement, and they're also searching for support. So we as humans are village people. Like we primitively, we only survived in a village. One person hunt, one person fished, another person gathered, and everyone in the village took care of everyone. And people don't, we are innately wired to have that, and people don't have villages anymore. No one lives, not very many people live close to their families, their grandparents for the babies. Like there's a lot of, we've now traveled because travel has become so easy, because jobs are a driving force. People have really traveled far from their families and they don't have a village. Now, one thing that's also really interesting is that because of that, it puts families searching for a place to belong. Right now, parents more than ever are craving connection, guidance, and a village to help raise their children. Like, this is a village here, like us talking. We're all, why do we keep coming every week? Well, because we want support and finding out what's worked for other people and how's this working, what's the latest research in these things, so that we can help support other people's children in our village around us, right? But your gym can become more than a place where they work out. It can become their second home. Here's the other key to this is that psychologically, like I was talking about earlier, transitions are the hardest. Transitions are the hardest for all humans. And if you think back to major transitions, graduating from one level to another thing, so graduating from high school to college, graduating from college and entering the working world. If you think about getting married, right? These are huge life transitions. Having a baby, even if it's your first baby versus your fourth baby, these are actually huge life transitions because now everything that you've done before has changed. Your structure, your schedule, your finances, your everything has changed. And even if it's your fourth baby, you still have to figure out how to negotiate all the three plus all the needs of the infant. And infants innately need lots of caring, and that caring is really important for their development and their nervous system. And how they're going to be in this world depends on how they were nurtured in those first 4 years. And so parents are innately looking for a village. They're needing support. They're wanting education. Like they're looking for, it's very clear now all in this world. A lot of people having children older now, they're in their 30s and even into their 40s now. And depending on where you are in the country, that range is, a little bit higher towards the 40s. But they're not having there are still people having children in their 20s and they're still looking for help as well. But you have a large population. I think it's more than 60% of people having children. Last time I looked on it, when I Googled it, in the US, more than 60% of them are in their 30 to 40 range. And they're also more educated having children. So there are more educated people who are older having children, and they're very aware of emotional intelligence. They're very aware of social emotional skills. They're very aware of neural divergence. They're very aware of gross motor milestones. And then if they're older than 35, they've been highly told about the risk for autism and being on the spectrum with their child. So there is a lot of fear that parents are needing answers to. And honestly, doctors aren't providing them. It's not being provided elsewhere. Gyms are a great place to begin to educate parents on development and how to be a support for them, be a village for them. So how can we build a family-centered gym that changes lives and grows your business at the same time? First thing, create a safe and welcoming space for families. I'm not talking about safe sports safe. Safe sports space, I'm assuming is already done, right? I'm talking about how can we design a space that actually, when you think about some of different corporations do this, several different doctors' offices do this now. Even my daughter's orthodontist office does this really cool thing. They have created a space when they design their waiting room, when they design their space, they find a way to create an open space with seating that is more circular or more facing each other. Instead of everything lined up and having only bleachers and everybody's facing the windows and watching the kids the whole time. Not that you don't want to have that part, but is there a corner somewhere where we can create a space that is more conducive to communication and interaction, a space where there is maybe a few chairs in a circle, a space where it is a little more open to communication and it starts to feel more warm in a supportive environment where parents can feel like they're seen and heard and connected. A gym that feels like home, right? And that they don't ever want to leave. These families really are seeking more than just a place for their kids to work out. They're seeking community, right? And now a piece to this is also going to be your front office staff, right? So having front office that is willing to communicate and talk and say, how's that thing going on? And they, naturally kind of training them to start to pick out and actively listen to parents when parents come in and talk about their struggle. I'm late today for picking up because I had to go pick up the grandmother from the hospital. Oh no, next time they come in, can we remember to ask about the grandmother? Like creating a space and creating systems where we teach our front staff to be active listeners so that they can also follow back up with, hey, how did it go last week? I know you had that job interview. Like, what can we do to kind of stay more connected to each other? So launch a movement class for babies as young as 3 months, right? Offer a first of its kind program that nurtures babies' sensory and motor skills right from the start, giving the parents peace of mind. It comes with education as well. So it comes with emails and social media and other that can support the education of the foundations of language and communication that you can use throughout your whole program. So when you come to these points where it's like it's time to move them up and they're not ready, the parent understands that it's important they have this foundation because they've already had this communication going on. Be the gym that helps children take their very first steps towards healthy and connected life so that they can be part of this amazing world that we're in. Another piece of this is foster genuine relationships that last. So learn how to create an environment where friendships are made, families bond, and your gym becomes a trusted pillar in the community, becomes a place to come hang out, not just a place to like, they want to be there. They don't want to just like drop their kid and go, or they don't want to just sit and stare at the window and try to analyze everything that's going on. They actually want to be a part of your community, your tribe, your family. Build loyalty through the heart, not just through hard work, right? Part of this was also, like I said, part of this is a cultural thing and a cultural shift, a communication shift, an active listening shift, a place for them to really communicate. But the other piece of this is also creating a physical environment or some space. And I'm not saying, hey, go redo your whole gym. I'm just saying, is there a way to create a small little corner where you have a little table that's not really big that has a Keurig on it? Just put a Keurig there, a couple cups, a little bit of coffee creamer, and then can you create a couple space around there where there's maybe actual throw rug there? And at that throw rug, can you put maybe 4 to 6 chairs, facing each other, not facing the gym, facing each other? And could you put a little table next to it where they have somewhere to sit something? Or maybe there's some hooks on the wall where they hang their purses. Create a little space that's very simple, does not need to be complicated, does not need to be a full coffee house. I'm not saying, hey, you guys go get in the business of being a coffee house and a snack bar. Like, no, I'm saying, can we create a space where when these parents come in with their children, so let's say it's a baby's class and a parent taught class, can we create a space where they come in and then when they come back out and you say, hey guys, there's coffee, would you guys want to come and sit for some coffee? And then a couple of the moms go, yeah, let's sit. And then they can sit down and have some coffee. And maybe there's a little space where they can kind of put a little mat blockage where they can see the kids that are on the floor and they're playing on the floor right there. We're not talking about a huge space, make it cozy, but create a space where before and after class, when these parent classes especially, where you grow, like this is where you want to really hook them. You want to hook them into your community. I'm not saying hook them in some bad way. I'm saying you want to hook them and say, we're here for your life. Tell us about what's going on. How can we be supportive of you? Can we create a space where moms and parents and dads and grandmas and nannies can sit and talk with each other before and after parent talk class? And they can start having these conversations like what diaper rashes they're having problems with and what preschool they're looking at and Montessori versus public school or private or charter, or like create some of this. And maybe you have a few books or a few magazines that kind of talk about some of the topics you hear them talking about. Like, can we create a space where we show them we're interested genuinely in where they are as a family, and that we recognize that life is challenging and that they're super busy people. Could you just take 10 minutes to just chill for yourself? Like, can we give a little bit of time for you to just get centered and know that you're safe here, right? When life is spinning around and all of these families, you guys have seen it in your gyms. I've been in some really cool gyms where there are some really amazing things that happened and happen. Things from scholarshiping people when a dad or someone, the main breadwinner, loses a job, to being there when someone's head of household passes away, and they help scholarship the 2 children to keep them into the gym. Because why? Because we know how important the structure of the gym is. But why do we have to be there only during these huge, big events? And I know you guys that are on here right now, I know all of you have done one of two of those things in there, and maybe even others that I'm unaware of. Providing food for families, allowing, I was just at a gym where they said they had once recently had a well, not recent, it was a long time ago, had a parent that got caught stealing toilet paper. And someone said to the owner, aren't you going to fire them? They're stealing because the parent was also working there part-time trying to make money to pay for the tuition. And she said, no, I'm not going to fire someone for stealing toilet paper. They're clearly desperate and they need something. She ended up scholarshiping that kid, and her number one coach, who was there and attentive and active in every single thing I said that weekend, was him, the one who'd been scholarshiped because his mom had been stealing toilet paper. So these are like, and he's getting ready to go into, he's looking for nursing school. He's finishing up his undergrad degree and wants to go to nursing. Like, these are the people we want to be there. And the gym can be that safe, structured place. And why do we have to only be there when major things happen like this? Can we create a space where we create communication, where we create a community, where we support each other, and where we have a lot of these conversations? Like, life is challenging and it's just getting more challenging in the world. So can we have conversations and create more community and create a reason for them to stay? So why does this matter more than ever? Because families are isolated and they're desperate for real life connections. They don't want, but you have to create a space where you're also being authentic, where we're being authentic and vulnerable and we're creating these connections. We don't want to just create some kind of fake something. You have to create a space where you really care for them. And when parents need a rock in their community where they can feel safe raising their children, by far, they need that. And the gym is a great place because these kids do have to transition from elementary to this elementary to middle school to high school. And it's like, can we find parents with similar age kids so we can start to interact outside of the gym, so that, because we know that they're good, or they're a good influence, or this or that. And are they going to go to the same school? Can we get them to the same school? Like, they'll start to grow their interactions through what they're learning at the gym. And your gym's quiet hours could be your most impactful, both profitable and community wise. So what I have today for you guys is a free family-centered guide. If you click on the QR code, it goes through a bunch of quick tips on ways to create a family-centered gym, where you start to think about, how can I'm not just building a team someday. I'm not just building someone who's going to come spend money for a certain time and move on or whatever. I'm building a community that these people want to be a part of. It's really great. I've actually seen a couple of places, other organizations, where people have got so bought into the tribe, the community, village of that, that they find ways to come back and give back, be it a reading program for others, be it a mentorship where higher level athletes or athletes who've retired come back and do some kind of help with the younger athletes. Like, and they're all volunteer stuff. What it tells me, when someone has graduated out of something and they decide to volunteer back, is that that community, that club, created something for that individual. It gave that individual something. It gave them a village. It gave them peace. It gave them structure. It gave them something they were seeking. So much so that, number one, they don't necessarily want to fully leave it. And number two, they want to come back and volunteer and give back. So there are so many ways we could look at to continue to create a family-centered gym. And the other thing is, it's not just adding babies. You can add babies, and yeah, we have the Born to Move program, we'll talk about it. But you also can add, as you grow, couldn't we keep them into the community, into some adult classes, into adult gymnastics? Could we keep them into some silver gymnastics instead of silver fins and silver weights? We can do like some older adult movement stuff. Can we get those intergenerationals working in between the hours of 10 and 2 together, right? Where grandma comes for her stuff and the grandkids come with the mom, and then they have a little coffee and hang out in the waiting room, and now they're all talking. We have intergenerational things happening. We know that when you have intergenerational communication and activities, it is by far so important for both ends of the continuum. It grows communication, it grows empathy for others and compassion. It grows. You talk about that social emotional thing. There's a bunch of research on intergenerational interactions. So it's like, can we create a space where everyone, and I know it sounds silly, but a coffee bar is almost one of those most simplest places. And maybe you have some tea and hot chocolate there, right? But it's like, it's all of a sudden something where people have to congregate. They want to congregate and they can sit for a little bit. And I think in so many times when I look back at the gyms, the goal used to be, the ones I grew up in, was get them in and get them out. I don't want the parents sitting here watching the whole time because then I'm feeling judged or whatever. And it's like, how can we create a space where everyone has something they need, right? And where we're getting this village built and creating not just a gym, but a movement, a tribe, something to impact your community. So be sure to click on this QR code. This QR code will get you the family-centered, free family-centered guide. We go through a couple of different ways you can do that, and things you can kind of interact into your gym, little simple things. And then the last piece of this is the Born to Move. If you're looking to change your community and impact children in your community and start your program as young as 3 months, we have a done for you program. And in that program, we have all the equipment, all the nursery rhymes, all the dances, all the lesson plans. We tell you the why, we teach you the why so that you can educate the parents on the why. And we also give you some basic marketing materials, flyers, social media posts, a little bit basic marketing stuff for you. And we'll support you through it if you choose to continue to support on. But just all in that package, everything you need to, once you've finished our 6 live trainings, which start June 10th, that's when our lives start. When you finish the 6 live trainings, you'll be ready. So after July 15th, you'll be ready to immediately implement for your program for the fall. And it is going to be life-changing for everyone. These foundations are so important, and it's a great place to add how you can impact your community at your from your gym. So click the QR code if you're interested in getting on the wait list. It doesn't open up, the cart doesn't open up till May 28th. So get on the wait list so you can get the special promos. So if you get on the wait list, you get special promos that are coming out. You're the first to know all of this information. And I believe we have some, not just special discounts, but some special promotions being added for those who are on the wait list. So that is the end for today. But any thoughts? I have some questions. What do you guys think about this idea of creating this type of space? And how did you take away anything that you're like, oh, that's really something I hadn't thought about? Like, that's something that we could maybe easily do. Any thoughts? I'll take any. Yeah, Brienne.
I think it's a good idea.
But I hear the but.
It's just one of those, I don't teach during the day.
Uh-huh.
So, but I know the gal that does, she's always like, I have 5 minutes and I have to be somewhere else. And so that's a scheduling issue at that point of just allowing that time to be there after class so that they can interact. So
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, so one aspect to that is one, having more classes during the day, right?
right,
If you create more classes during the day and market it properly, then you'll be running multiple classes. You can create a space. And it's not that the coach needs to be out in the waiting room the whole time, though it'd be great for a coach to come out and just say, hey, how's it going? How's life? Like, not even talking about gymnastics, right?
right. And I think that'll happen. I think she's gonna put some more classes during the day. She actually bought your program, so
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That I know. So once we get her going, she's going to know exactly what to do, and you can start to use the marketing to build in and bring in more moms and more families from there.
yep.
So one is creating more programs there, but also two is maybe creating a window of time where it's like, okay, we're going to invest in these new families because we're going to be there for them in these transitions. And the research shows that if you're there for someone in the transitions, you create a relationship for a lifetime. I look back at some of the hardest times in my life where I had huge losses and huge shifts. And the people who were there for me, really there for me, to this day, I would do anything for them. Matter of fact, I have. One of them showed up. She's in Europe now, living, and she showed up on my doorstep in the middle of my work day one day. I said, "Oh my God, I wish I knew you were here coming. I would like just taken the day off." And she's like, "Oh, no, 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 it's okay. I'll come back for dinner." I shifted my entire evening and I did nothing but go and spend time with her. Dropped everything. And that is not something I can usually do, but I made it happen because why? Because I had this deep connection with her because she was there for me through one of the largest transitions in my life. And so that's what having babies is, right? If we can really help be there for a family. So it might be, and I just want to throw the question out there for your owner, Brianne, is, and especially once we get through the program, she'll see, but it's like, is paying the coach to stay an extra 20 minutes after that class a good investment in the long haul? Because now we're there, we're creating this village, and now we're going to keep growing that village. We're going to go from babies to waddlers to toddlers to preschool. And then from preschool, they're going to enter into all the different, every gym has different, sex. Some have DP, some have Excel, some have NAG or NAG, some have AIU. Some have partner acrobatics, some have acro and tumbling, others have ninja, trampoline, like wherever you're feeding off into, these people are your base. And by building that community and that relationship, you're likely to keep them through the base much, much greater. And as they have a second child and a third child, and you're really going to be able to create a community where people want to come. And then the thing is that if you've created a community where they feel safe and secure and supported and they have the village that they're getting, guess what they're going to say when they go to church or when they go to the coffee house down the street with their mom's group or when they go to whatever club that they do part of or their best friend or their neighbors in the street. They're going to be talking about your gym. And then more people will come because it's the world is becoming more and more chaotic. The more we can create a village and a community and be a rock for people, like not just the athlete, but the family, the more likely you're going to pull in more people. Does that make sense, Brian?
Most definitely. Yep.
And she'll have to do the numbers, but kind of figure of it. But if you think of it in like the bigger scheme of things, you zoom way out, spending another 10, 20 minutes on or probably 20 minutes on a coach after a practice like that in the middle of the day, it would probably highly pay off. Now, I don't have the numbers to tell you for sure.
No, but the whole idea is good because I think that's what a lot of people are missing is having a tribe. Everybody's kind of on their own island right now.
Everyone's on their island. And if you look at any of the psychological research, isolation is the biggest factor into anxiety, depression, stress disorders, anxiety and stress and like being isolated. Isolation is one of the key foundations that leads to all kind of disease, mental health and physical. And so if you look at as we've gone further and further away from our family structure that exists more in Europe than it does here in America now. Like if you go in Italy, they are still having their Sunday family dinners. I went and visited in Italy and I stayed in this place and it was so funny. Every night there was this restaurant right down the street from ours and you could hear it through the windows. And I had to venture out. It was so boisterous and loving and laughing. I had to venture out and I open out and I look and it's this huge Italian family at this tiny restaurant and they know everyone. And it was a tiny village I was staying in. So they went to this restaurant every night. I was there for 5 days and they went every night and it was mostly the same core people. A few people came in and out. So you could tell like some of the parents must have had things going on with her, but it was the whole family. And that was a family structure. And it's interesting, that is part of their culture. There's also Latin countries that are very much like this as well. They have that still in their culture. And if you look at the rate of mental health issues and the rate of disease in countries, Italy, Europe, Latin countries versus, or Latin America versus the United States right now, it's sad. Like the US, the mental health and the physical health as well has just declined drastically over the last decade. And if you look at it, the family structure has declined drastically over the last decade. There's become such a push for output that everyone's jobs are pulling them in all these directions and no one's having one point of center, like one point of center to just check in or connect. And so I really think, and it's something I've been playing with for a while. Doc Alley and I've talked about it for multiple years over the years, but this is the first time I'm publicly saying it. I honestly think that the gyms can be that check-in point, that center hub, that village that everybody's seeking, so that, but we have to really work to create it. We have to change the culture of, drop your kids off, we'll take care of them, don't worry. Like, we have to change the culture of come and drop them and go, and the culture of just send me, send the tuition so that we can do this. And oh, by the way, the meat fees are due, so that instead of becoming a place where we're just like paying because we know it's good for our kid, we start to realize that it's actually a social structure that I need as a family, as a mom, as a dad, as a nanny, as a grandma, like a place where we can all be involved. And, at some point that might look like there's an open gym where the whole family's allowed in and has fun. Like, but it also may not. I don't, that's going to probably be per structure, but it's like, can we just create a space where people can start to find people of similar beliefs and also opposite beliefs, but still have a similar grounding something. It's all about finding similar ground. And the cool thing is sport is similar ground. Like all of a sudden we have kids that are all interested, like if you're a parent and you're bringing your kid to a parent talk class, you're interested in movement. You're interested in helping your kid be better at something. That already creates a commonality. And if we can focus on the commonalities, we can grow a village around that. And so if you're talking about your teen parents, you have kids now that are training large hours. Maybe they're an Excel kid 8 to 10 hours. That's still a lot, right? But you have kids that are training large hours. They're trying to balance out their school schedule with that. Mom and dad are still trying to balance out family time. Like these are struggles that all those parents are having. They have a sense of commonality already. Can we just give them a space to start to talk about it? And I joke about the coffee thing, but it's like coffee is one of those easy ways. A friend of mine opened a coffee business called Thistle Creek, and he had me do a interview for his podcast, and he asked me some really good questions about coffee, and this is kind of why it came in with the coffee. And the thing is, it can even be someone that like, oh, not everybody drinks coffee. Sure, put tea in there, put hot chocolate there, and Keurig does them all, right? Not that I'm also a brand like whatever for Keurig. I don't. It's, everybody knows it's like Kleenex, right? But like, he asked me a question. He said, "Can you tell me a story of a pivotal moment in your life where coffee was involved?" And I had like 10. Like I went back and I was like, oh my gosh, some of my greatest thoughts and decisions. I used to go to coffee shops to do all of my presentations for USA Gymnastics back in the day before I had my daughter. Because I just needed a change of scenery to go sit and work and do the presentations. Um, I'll never forget drinking coffee with my mom when she was really sick. I'll never forget some of the coffee I had with some of my friends when really big things were happening. And I was like, oh my gosh, I started thinking, and he asked me like, what was my favorite coffee or when did I have the best coffee or whatever. And I had this story about when I was sitting with my spiritual teacher in India, and these Italians made the best Italian coffee I've ever had. So like my favorite coffee actually in the whole wide world was Italian coffee in India, you know? And it was just, so it's interesting of these ideas of like, so how is it we can find, so I throw coffee in there because our coffee station, because it is a center point, which makes someone pause. They have to make it. It's warm. They have to sit down. And you can easily create a small station with a few chairs around it where they get to sit and now they're looking at each other and they start to talk, right? Maybe we put round tables, instead of putting things out that are divided or square tables, can we create round tables, spaces where people sit and see each other? Like it's really, if we can create a structure that's different. I want to go get some pictures from my daughter's orthodontist office. They did this great way, and they created like 3 different spaces in one lobby. And one was a space for people to sit and work and plug in and do some work. And then the other spaces were more about community. And I'm sure I'm open to other ideas besides coffee, but the point of the coffee was the idea that you have to pause. You get to sit down. And now let's create a space where they have to talk, where they have a space to look. And once people sit to start to drink coffee or tea or hot chocolate, they start to take a sigh and they go, man, this day's been rough. And then the guy next to them, me too. What happened today? Right? Or man, I don't know what we're going to do about the next meet, blah, 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 because I don't know how I'm going to get my kid there. Like I have this work thing and this thing. All of a sudden they start to grow a relationship. And when those things happen, they like know the parent that's on the team. They don't just like sort of know the parent. They actually know them and trust them. And they go, hey, do you actually mind? Could my daughter travel with your daughter? Like these interactions start to become greater instead of like, and I know like at higher levels this may happen, but like the lower levels, those level 3s and 4s, they're all going individual, right? But it's hard on some of the families. And it's partially because, and they're making it happen and going individual, but partially because they don't trust the village yet. They don't have a community like grounding to be like, oh yeah, Aria can go with that friend and they can take her to the meet and come back. I've got to go help my mother with this thing. There's so many ways for this to grow from babies all the way up that I just think it's something we need to talk about. How do we create a community and a tribe, a village for everyone? Like Brianna, I hear it in your voice, and I hear it in your voice all the time, Carla, too. And Carla and Brianna, I hope to say I'm part of your tribe. And Carla, I do know I'm part of your tribe. But like, it's like we all need it. The coaching staff needs it, the parents need it. Like we all are in this world that is constantly changing and in ways that a lot of people are struggling with, whether it's financial or belief structures or anger or emotions around what's going on in the world. And we're all looking for a safe place. And that is innately human. Innately, we need that secure attachment. So can our gem be that secure attachment? So download the guide. Did you guys get the QR code off of that? Maybe. You want me to pop it back up on the screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm gonna pop it up on the screen. Exit full screen. Oh, okay, fine. Stop screen share. Doesn't like something about it. What? Hmm. 1 second. There we go. Oh, I see. Oh, maybe. There we go. Oh, Canva. Okay, screen share. Yeah, so here we go. Here's your free guide. So scan the QR code and get your free guide for a family-centered gym. And then part of Born to Move is we are going to help you guys try to create a family-centered space where everyone comes and they want to stay. It's always that whole cheers idea. It's like everyone knows my name. Like, and part of it is also, there's a piece of this like training your front office staff to actively listen and begin to get involved with people, not overly involved in your solving their problems, but just recognize that you know them. And then if you're interested in the Born to Move program, our wait list is here. You'll get all the latest promos and all that stuff. It's only for the wait list. So the wait list gets some special promos. So be sure to click the QR code for the wait list for that. And then back to the free guide if you didn't get it. All right, you guys. I honestly believe that we as gymnastics gyms and facilities have a great opportunity and have a great platform to make a huge change in this world, because just creating a space where people can get that village, it's going to downregulate everyone's nervous systems. And it really will help impact the community while growing your business at the same time, because now all of a sudden everybody wants to come. So thank you guys so much for joining. Next week, we're going to talk some more on the sensory motor building blocks and the 4 legs of learning. So some really cool pieces that you can use with all ages. We'll talk about the babies, but we're going to talk about how you can use these foundational principles for everything. So I look forward to seeing you guys next week. And thank you guys so much for coming this week. All right. Bye, you guys.